Welcome back, everybody. The History Guy here. I am continuing on the modern day mod. It's called Millennium Dawn, and I've got a couple of additional add-ons. I've got those listed below in the comment section here. I am the Nation of Israel. It is June 1st, 2017, and this is episode 2. And the situation right now, just to recap, if you've forgotten from episode 1, ISIS is just dominating the region. They're about to take over Syria after already puppeting Iraq and the Kurdish state, leaving really just Israel, Lebanon, and Jordan kind of probably as their next targets, I would think. So I've got to be wary of that. In the meantime, I continue to work on my economy, building that up. I'm about to get another national focus completed that has to do with the economy. I'm 30 days away from my first set of researches being completed, and we'll see what happens from there. Just got to keep watching that situation closely with ISIS, because I am more than a little bit concerned that they're going to turn their sights on me next. Just take a look real quick at the situation here. Actually, Syria's holding their own at the moment. There's revitalized the economy. And the United States has gone to war with who? All diplomats of the United States have failed. They will now sort out their differences with their enemy on the battlefield. The United States of America has declared war on the Islamic terrorist mandate of Iraq. So that's the puppet government that was set up by ISIS, and the U.S. is going to go to war, and it looks like my ally is coming to the rescue, so I may not have to worry about that after all. In the meantime, continuing to focus myself on the goal of getting down here to nationalizing oil production, which is going to give me a boost of 50 oil production in Israel, which will be huge. It'll make me basically energy independent in the region, which will be very nice not to have to worry about trading for oil. So we'll kind of keep an eye out here and see what happens. It's going to take the U.S. some time to get those forces into the region here. I don't expect we'll see much happening with that right away. I would guess that means they're also at war with ISIS, but let's take a look here. Oh, not just them either. They're actually at war with a whole bunch of people. All right, initially the great parliamentary crisis our news outlets now talk about broke out over a minor loophole in the tax code that affected our budget in a pretty insignificant way. This has now grown into a tirade of insults from one side to the other and has affected our national prestige and our democratic legacy at home and abroad. So, choices here. The Supreme Court needs to intervene. That will give me some stability, but it will cause me to have a brief political power gain hit, and we'll lose some political power. That's not really a big deal. You know what? I think we'll go with the one that gives me the boost in stability. So I'd rather have the stability than the political power right now. I don't really have a lot of need for political power at the moment. So ISIS is basically at war with the free world, so to speak. Looks like we've got the U.S. and Spain, and it appears it's basically NATO. Greece is in there, Canada, Belgium. So interesting. We'll see how that all plays out. But it's put the world tension up to 25% now, which means that justifying a war doesn't take quite as long, but I have no interest right now in justifying a war. I am far from the place where I want to even be thinking about going to war right now. So obviously going to be a little while before I can do anything with political power, because that parliamentary crisis will stop here pretty soon, but it's still going to take a while to get up to 150, which is what I need in order to be able to do anything. Getting close on our research, 13 days to go. And that'll be real nice to get all of these boosts to things like production efficiency, construction speed, factory output, max factories in a state, resource gain efficiency. Speaking of factories, let's take a look at where our construction is and where trade is, because I may be, like right here, I don't need that anymore because I built a tungsten factory. So now I can free up another factory for construction because I'm producing enough to not need that. And you can see there, oil, nice surplus is going. I'm importing 16 right now. I'm going to be making 50 on my own here in just a couple of months. So that's going to be nice too. That'll free up some more factories. Let's take a look at production and where we stand with recruitment. I actually got enough now to where I could put this unit into the field if I need to. But we're still working on infantry equipment, motorized, mechanized, and main battle tanks. Eventually, I'm going to have to definitely produce some more military factories just so I can get going a little bit faster on those things. In fact, I may do that next. Alright, we got rid of the effects of the parliamentary crisis. You can see I don't have a lot of room for factories right now, but that's going to change eventually. As I improve my research and technology, it's going to give me the ability to put more factories in some of these areas. It'll also give me the ability to level up some of those factories. So, in the meantime, let's put a couple of military factories in the West Bank. That'll make the Palestinians happy. And we're about to get all of our research all at once. There we go. That's going to help a great deal. Now we've opened up a whole new group of things, and I'm going to continue in this same focus. And some of these are going to happen really fast now. Because I've got all these 50% bonuses. Yeah, that'll let me level up some more of these factories. I am going to look a little bit at some other things here. Engineering, encryption, decryption. That's a good one right there. Also, experimental rockets. I'm going to start working on that as well. That'll get me to be able to have some higher technology because I'm never going to have a big army. So what I really need to have is a high-tech army so I can be efficient with a small number of forces. See what's happening. Still nothing really happening in Iraq. It'll be probably a little while before they get any forces into the theater to be able to fight that war. In the meantime, ISIS has definitely turned the tide against Syria, and they're looking like they're about to win that war. So I guess it's going to depend on how quickly the Americans and their allies get troops into the region. So we're into July of 2017 now. So we are ahead of real life, which is an unusual place to be in a Hearts of Iron game, that we're actually ahead of what's happening in real life. So, typically this is a game where you're fighting in the past. So there's not really much I can talk about historically because this time in place has not happened yet. But things are pretty quiet at the moment. Looks like my rubber factory will be done in about 3 weeks. Let's look at trade one more time. Just make sure that we're not wasting anything on trade because we're gaining too much of a surplus. Doesn't look like we are. We'll go ahead and get that unit into the field. And I think think I'll go ahead and tell it to primarily focus on reinforcements. So we'll get the units that are already out there replenished before we focus on building new ones. See what Jordan's up to. International alliances, that's always a good thing. What about the Islamic State? Industrial focus. Iraq, international alliances. Syria, also international alliances. So that seems to be a pretty popular one right now. Let's see what that exactly does. Must be over this way somewhere. Here we go. I guess they don't want me to know. So, can create factions. Okay, so we may see some new factions formed when those things happen. But still, very little happening. The borders are not shifting all that much right now. Unassigned division, let's go ahead and just basically only one place you can go with it because I've just got one garrison army that's defending the whole nation right now. I'm curious to see if I were to go to war with the Islamic State at some point, what it looks like my chances are in said war. So let's go ahead and at least set up a strategy for that. And it seems like it would be successful. I definitely have the advantage on the enemy, so you know, maybe that's something to consider here, since they're already at war with a bunch of other folks anyway. Maybe we go after them first. It's going to take the better part of a year to do that, but I want to at least have a plan in place. So if the opportunity presents itself and they've taken out Syria, the Americans and the others haven't come in to the rescue, so to speak, at least I can open up another front and maybe weaken them. So we'll see what happens. But I would definitely, at least on the surface, it appears I would be quite successful in such an attack. It's just going to take a while to get there. Still 4 years away from having to worry about an election. Just keeping an eye on some things right now here. Construction, we're on to our chromium factory now. And of course, we're going to get the oil production here right after this national focus completes in another 2 weeks, which is going to add infrastructure. Then the next one is going to give us the opportunity to nationalize the oil production. After that, if I so choose, well, I'll have to go this route here, which is going to add a bunch more infrastructure. Or I can start working on militarization, which is going to start giving me a bunch more military factories. That might be the way to go if I'm looking at the possibility of war with ISIS. So after I get the oil production, that's probably what I'll do. In the meantime, I'm going to do modern offshore drilling here soon, which will allow me... Upgraded factories are going to be important for me since I have limited space to build factories. So that'll be very helpful. At some point, though, I'm going to have to focus on some other areas of research besides just my infrastructure. For example, maybe working on upgrading my main battle tanks a little further. Because those don't look like they would take all that long, only about 83 days for each one. And like I said, it may be helpful to do that with a small army. Alright, so we're into August. We'll probably go, I don't know, maybe into October with this episode. We'll see how quickly it goes. Not a lot happening right now. The fronts are pretty well static in the wars in my region. Not a lot has happened. Still pretty well in favor of ISIS there, but not a lot happening. They've got 19 divisions in the region, it looks like, total. But most of them are militia, and I'd probably be able to take them out pretty easily with a decent fighting force. Let's see what the time remaining is on that justification. Alright, so it's going to be February 25th when that's done, of 2018. National focus is completed on infrastructure. Now we nationalize oil production. It's going to give me 3 new civilian factories and 50 production of oil. That's huge. That's going to be really big for my country's economy right now. I'm just curious to look at what the infrastructure situation looks like now. So in a couple places it's up to 8. It's only 3 here. So let's focus on building that up some. And some of these regions kind of out on the exteriors. Alright, so it may be that I bail Syria out by going to war with ISIS because they're not doing anything on their own. They haven't been able to finish them off. So it's kind of a stalemate. I've got the manpower to replace any potential losses that I have, so that's good. Should have another research finishing up here, offshore drilling. There we go. So now I'm going to go ahead and turn my attention to some other areas here. Well, let's take a look real quick because upgrading doesn't make a lot of sense until I'm able to produce more units. So that'd be nice, production efficiency cap. So that'd make me a little bit more efficient with what I'm producing. Since I have such limited ability to produce these different areas, the more I can get that efficiency up, the better off I'll be. Because it's only going up, wow, by only 0.1% per day. And so it's got a long way to go before it even hits the cap. So maybe what I need to be worried about is finding a way to make that production efficiency grow quicker so that we can be producing more. I'm still only producing 1 new main battle tank a day, and I've got a need for 250 of them. Looking at trade, man, if I produce just a little bit more rubber, or if I would stop exporting, I wouldn't need to be trading for it. Who am I trading with for that rubber? That's why I wasn't looking at rubber. India. I'm getting my rubber from India right now. Not a thing happening in these wars right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at diplomacy. They're working on industry now. Internal politics. Recruit more diplomats. What's Jordan doing? Unknown. I cannot figure out what they're doing. They must have encryption high enough that I can't see what they're doing. Alright, we're about to finish producing heavy equipment, so there's resource gain efficiency. I gotta look and see when that one's complete, if there's something I can do to cause that production efficiency to go up a little faster. We're still about 3 months away from nationalizing the oil production. About 5 months away from being able to declare war on ISIS. I would think that that's the one war I could declare in this region without getting too much ire from my neighbors. If I were to go to war with Egypt or Jordan, for example, I would probably find myself being ganged up on by all the other Arab nations in the region. But ISIS would be a different story. So All right, let's take a look. What do we have that can help with resource or with production efficiency gain? So that's retention. Oh, retention and growth. Here we go. That's perfect. That'll cause it to grow a little faster. That's exactly what I want. It's not a big bonus, but 10% is a little something. All right, so we'll probably go to the end of September, get into the middle of October with this episode. We'll see how quickly that happens. Oh, Syria's pushing back. Look at that. They've gained some territory in the war against ISIS. If that continues, I may not even need to get involved in that war. Yeah, nothing happened. And the U.S. has declared war on this Iraqi state, but they haven't done anything about it so far. I'm kind of curious to see what's happening in the U.S. as far as what they're working on, if I'm able to see that. Unknown focus. Okay, so I'll have to work on my decryption at some point. I noticed something that I want to go back and look at here that I thought was kind of interesting. Foreign claims. Is that the Confederate States? Yeah, Confederate States has Georgia as a core state. That's kind of interesting because the Confederate States, do they exist? I mean, is there a civil war going on in the United States? I don't see one. Interesting. Just kind of found that curious to see that. All right, so I do have the ability to make a change in government here. Can't go closed economy. What about limited exports? That's going to hurt my factory output and construction speed and research time. But it's also going to mean that I'm trading away less of my own. So, I don't know. No, I can't do it anyway because I'm not of the correct ideology. I'm not the United Kingdom. Okay, so that's kind of weird that it's showing all these available things that I can't even choose because I'm not the right country for it. What if we change taxes? What's that do? Helps research time but hurts factory output. Alright. We'll do that. We're going to lower taxes and get that little bonus to the factory output as well as get a national unity increase. So let's see. Let's take a look again at trade. Still not enough of a surplus to really affect anything. Working on our military factories. Those are going to take a while. They take a whole lot more time than the others do. Alright. One of our military districts has brought a most shameful display of military insubordinance and lacking discipline. The officers have let their soldiers drink, visit prostitutes, and vandalize civilian shops. There's a national disgrace that is even getting international attention. What should we do? So we could purge these fools, which is going to increase my stability. Doesn't appear that it's really going to hurt anything. If I say it's not an issue, I get a manpower bonus. Nah, let's do it. Because manpower is not really an issue for me right now. So alright, so we're about halfway to nationalizing oil production. Let's see. Working on constructing some military factories. We're working on producing a reason to go to war with ISIS, which will happen here in just a couple more months. That'll happen at the end of February. And the U.S. and her allies are still not engaged in this war that they have declared. So that's kind of where things stand right now as we get into mid-October of 2017. As always, if you're watching this and you are interested and you have any suggestions as far as the way you would like to see me go with this, I've kind of talked through my thought process for the immediate future. But long term, if you think there's something I should be focusing on or you'd like to see, let's make this interactive. I'd like to make this entertaining for you. So go ahead and throw your suggestions in the comment section. If you have any questions or there's something in particular you want me to show you in the game, in the mod that you'd like to see to learn a little bit more about it, please ask. I'll be glad to accommodate that in the next episode. I'm going to try to do one episode a day in this series, and we'll see how far it goes, how interesting it gets. And as long as people are interested, I'll keep producing the videos. So if you'd hit that thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, I'd greatly appreciate that. Thank you. We'll see you back here tomorrow with another episode.